Hello, I'm Dr. Catherine Clements, the Ecology and Natural Resources Educator here at University of Florida IFAS Extension, Sarasota County. And we are here for another Life Science Short. Life is learning in Florida's environment, and today we have Dr. Marguerite Beckford with us, and she is going to teach us about flower power and the process of pollination. She is going to share all sorts of cool information with you about where our food comes from, and she's going to show you how to dissect a flower at home or anywhere where you are. So let's go find Dr. Marguerite.
Go. Hello, my name is Dr. Marguerite Beckford, and I'm the Commercial Horticulture Extension Agent here at IFAS, Sarasota County. And today I'm going to be talking to you about pollination power. So I want you to look at these items, and if you can figure out what they all have in common, then you'll get a prize. No, I'm kidding. There's no prize. But what these items all have in common is pollination. So let's start with your pizza. Some of the key ingredients in pizza are cheese, tomato, and wheat. The tomato relies on pollination to set fruit. The wheat seeds also rely on pollination. And the cheese, which is made from milk, which comes from cows, the cows are fed grain or grass, and both grain, corn, oats, or barley, which is some of the most common ingredients in grain-fed cattle feed, corn, oats, and barley all rely on pollination. Then we have our lime juice, or lemon juice, or orange juice, or citrus. The fruit that is juiced to give you lime, lemon, orange juice, grapefruit juice, etc., that fruit is as a result of pollination. And so without pollination, we'd have no lime juice, lemon juice, orange juice, grapefruit juice. Popcorn relies on pollination of the female corn flowers in order to produce popcorn. We have a t-shirt and some socks. Now you might think, what does that have to do with food, or what does that have to do with pollination? But cotton t-shirts and cotton socks come from the cotton flowers, and cotton flowers rely on pollination to produce cotton fibers. So what we're going to be doing today is learning more about the pollination process by taking you through the dissection of a flower. So we're going to go over to our butterfly garden, because our butterfly garden is full of pollinators such as butterflies and bees, and we're going to harvest some flowers from our butterfly garden, and I'm going to take you through the process of flower dissection and show you how flowers are pollinated. Here we are in the butterfly garden, and as you can see, there are lots of flowers and butterflies and bees visiting the flowers. And what's important about pollinators such as bees and butterflies is that we rely on them for many of the foods that we eat. Many of the foods that we eat are pollinated by bees and butterflies. As they move from flower to flower, they transfer pollen grains which stick to their legs, and sometimes what will actually happen is bees will collect pollen grains and store them in pouches on their legs. And so as bees and butterflies visit flowers, they will transfer pollen from one flower to another, and that supports the process of pollination. So now that we have our flowers, we're going to take it back and we're going to do some flower dissections. So before we start dissecting the flowers, I want to walk you through the parts of a flower. Most flowers will have petals, and they will have sepals. The sepals are the green parts of the flowers, and the petals are the colorful parts of the flowers. Inside the flower, you may have male parts, which are made up of an anther, a filament, and together the male part of the flower is called a stamen. You also have a female part of the flower, and the female part of the flower is made up of the stigma, the style, the ovary, and then inside the ovary is the ovule. Collectively, the female part of the flower is called the pistil. There are some flowers that will have both male and female parts. So there are some flowers that will have both stamens and pistils. And then you will have some flowers that will have only male parts or only female parts. In that case, your flower would be an incomplete flower in that it would be either a male flower or a female flower. This diagram shows you a picture of a complete flower because it has both female parts and male parts. Now we're going to get into dissecting the flower. So for a flower dissection, it's ideal if you can find a large flower. Flowers come in all shapes and sizes, but the larger the flower, the more visible will be the flower parts. You can use tweezers or your fingers, and it's always a good idea to have a hand lens so you can be able to see in detail the parts of the flower. So starting with the flower, you are going to pull apart the petals, holding the flower at its base. Just pull the petals apart, and once you pull the petals apart, you will expose the male and female parts of the flower. So I have taken off the petals, which are the brightly colored plant tissue here. And what I'm left with now are the sepals. If you remember the diagram, the green parts at the base of the flower are the sepals. Now, if you remember the diagram, I showed you the male parts. So the male parts are the stamen, which is comprised of the anther at the top, and a stalk, which is the filament, and collectively this is the male part of the flower. In the center of the flower, you'll have the pistil, which is the female part of the flower, and that's comprised of the stigma, which is at the top, the style, which is the stalk that goes down to the flower ovary. So when pollination occurs, pollination can occur via pollinators, which are bees, bats, butterflies, even humans, or it can occur via wind pollination. When pollination occurs, pollen grains from the anthers, which are the male parts, will get deposited on the stigma, which is the female part. And then the pollen grains will travel down the style to the base of the flower. And at the base of the flower is the flower's reproductive DNA inside the ovary. Once pollination occurs, the ovary at the base of the flower will get fertilized, and this ovary then develops into your tomatoes, your corn grains, your blueberries, your strawberries, your cotton. And that, in a nutshell, no pun intended, is the process of pollination. So the takeaway from today's lesson is that the next time you bite into a slice of pizza, the next time you munch on some popcorn, or take a mouthful of cool, refreshing juice, or even put on your socks, thank a flower, because all those things are brought to you by flower power and the process of pollination. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Dr. Marguerite. Oh my gosh, that was such great information she shared with us today about flowers and pollination. If you'd like to learn more about flowers, you can watch some of our other life science shorts. We have one on plant parts and reproduction, and we also have one on gardening in Florida. So if you want to learn more about growing edible food in your own garden, watch our episode on what plants need. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.